Welcome back to another edition of New York Got Game. Dexter Henry here. Things continuing for the Knicks. Rolling along, I should say. Knicks have won 4 straight games. All 4 games on this 7-game homestand. So right now, things are looking good. Remember when they were 2-3? Everybody thought it was all coming to an end. Worried about Mike Brown's offense. Well, that seems to have gone away. But it's an interesting time for the Knicks because they're right at about the mark where they're about a 10th through the season. 9 games they've played at the time of recording this episode. So I thought it was a good time to look at some burning questions. And we have a fantastic guest joining us today just to do that. All right, Knicks fans, 6 wins in. So it's time to take stock of where this team stands right now. The offense is starting to click. The defense, still a work in progress. And every night, it feels like a different storyline is emerging. So this week, we're going to bring the heat. We've got 6 burning Knicks questions. We're going to have 3 from me, 3 from my guy, Lee Escobado of the Knick of Time show, who joins me now. Lee, what is going on, man? Welcome back to New York Got Game.
Great to be here, Dexter. Thank you again for having me. It's always an honor and pleasure to represent my KOT crew, B, Ebony, Phil, Fritz, Ryan, and my main man, Jay Ellis. Happy birthday, brother.
Happy birthday to Jay Ellis. Shout out to the entire KOT crew. Lee, I thought you were the perfect person to have on for this because we always have some good Knicks discussions and other discussions off camera that you and I always have from time to time. So I was like, okay, this is an early part of the season. The Knicks haven't played, that many games. They've only played 9 games. They're 6-3. They're hot right now. They've won 4 games in a row, all at home throughout this homestand. So I was like, yeah, let's have some burning questions. There's always things around the team that we're still concerned about, things that we are curious about, things we want to see how it evolves. So here's what we're going to do. So like I said, Lee's got 3 questions. I've got 3 questions. We're going to discuss and hopefully try to come up with some answers to these questions. So Lee, I'm going to let you tip things off here. What's your first burning question about the Knicks 9 games into the seasons?
My main man, Gerson Yabusele. Let's talk about him. My question to you, Dexter, is do you think that he can regain the catch and shoot, specifically catch and shoot efficiency and defensive versatility that we saw last season with Philadelphia, where he had career highs in usage, minutes, touches, where he was able to shoot 50% from the field, 38% from 3. After a rough start in New York, he's down to only 2 minutes game. I'm sorry, 2 points game in 9.9 minutes on 27.8% shooting overall and 23% from deep. Now, tonight against the Nets, he hit a couple of threes, but how and why do you think Yabusele has not been as involved into the rotation, and how and can he get himself back in the form that he was in Philadelphia?
Man, now everything, I just want to say this, everything that you pointed out there, Lee, and you talked about his numbers last year and you looked at his numbers this year, I think a huge part of the reason why I thought he was a good free agent signing for the Knicks. In fact, great. I talked about the Knicks signing him. I thought it would be a fantastic fit, right? He brought a little bit of toughness, not the best defender, but somebody that can hit some above the break threes, can help space what this team needed. You could play him in lineups with Mitchell Robinson. You could play him in lineups with karl-anthony Towns. Thought that was all good. But you brought up the numbers from this season, and thus far it's not been good. No, he looked a little better against the Nets on Sunday night. How does he get back to where he is? Well, we got to talk about the uncomfortable truth around Gerson Yabusele right now. He does not look like he's in shape. He does not look like he's in shape at all to start this season. He's looked like he's been a bit slow. He looks a little bit heavier. His weight was listed as 283, I believe, to start this season coming out of training camp. That is heavier than what he played at for France in Eurobasket. I think he's got to get back into shape. I think that's the key thing for me. He's got to get back into shape. He can work himself back into game shape. I think you're starting to see a little bit more. I think once he does that, Lee, and you can tell me what you think, I think you'll then see the uptick in minutes from him once again. This was a guy I think you and I would have said, okay, he can play 15 minutes or so off the bench. We're not even seeing that from him right now. He's clearly the 9th man on this team off the bench. The Knicks are going to need him, though. They're going to need his versatility in small ball lineups. They're going to need to see that. But for me, it starts with getting in shape. I think once he gets in shape, he's running the floor better, he's getting more lift on his shots, he will play with more confidence and will be the players the Knicks need. I don't know about you, Lee. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Are you worried about the start you've seen with Gerson? I'm not as worried about it yet, but I think it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
I'm not worried, but he has been the only one thus far that has been worrisome. And the point that I think we're going to need him the most, and this is an advantage to him because there's so much time before this happens. But Dexter, it's when we're in the finals. The Western Conference, yes, I'm going that far.
You
I'm
look,
predicting
look at
this in the
look at you again. Already putting in. You did say this to me in the summer. To be fair, already putting the Knicks into the finals. This is when they're going to really need him. Okay, against who? What's the team? Can we just put that out there too? Why not?
yeah, sure. I think it's going to be the Denver Nuggets.
Okay, all right.
And a lot of the teams that are playing the most zone are coming from the Western Conference, as
Mm,
well as the teams that play the deepest rotations, where you see teams are playing 10 or 11 guys. Not every night, but some nights. You see that from the OKC Thunder, you see it from the Denver Nuggets, potentially the Houston Rockets. So I think we don't need Yabusele when those extensions get the rosters get more extended, and
mm,
you need another big wing. We have so much guard depth, so much intermediate depth too. Guys who are between 6'4" and 6'6". But the long, rangy wings like Yabu, we really only have OG Anunoby right now. Is really the only one because Josh Hart is undersized, Clarkson's undersized, Bridges is undersized for a larger wing. Precious is gone. We really need someone behind OG Anunoby when deep into the playoffs to help give rest, but also to break that zone with 3-point shooting. And Yabusele needs to bring the catch and shoot opportunities that he got in Philly to New York. Now, if he can't do that, that means Mike Brown's going to have to play not only a shortened rotation, but a smaller rotation too.
mm.
And I want to be able to see opportunities where Cat has another wing on there that can switch on the perimeter so he doesn't always have to be in drop coverage and you can have him at the level and switch on ball screens and not worry about someone beating him off and not having him rim protection. So to me, Yabusele is not necessarily crucial now, but he is going to be crucial later, which gives him a solid 5-6 month period to get the BBL in shape because right now it's wearing him down, it's slowing him down,
Yep.
and as someone who is very mindful of what goes into the body and trying to get in shape myself, I understand the struggle. I respect the struggle, but he's got to amp it up right now because this is game time. The season has started, and his minutes and his role are decreasing.
See, I think you're being pretty reasonable about it, right? Like I think he does have some time, and how long it takes each player to get into game shape varies. So I'm with you on that. You're right. They need him more. I'm not going to go all the way to the finals. I'm not going to go that far, but they do need him more as they progress through the season and get to the playoffs. I do, and I think you bring up another great point. It is important for him against teams that play a lot of zone. He's a zone buster. He's a guy that can help with that. We saw the great catch and shoot opportunities in Philly last year, and you would think the way this team is playing currently right now in Mike Brown's offense, and I don't even think they're at the peak of their powers in this offense.
No,
There will be catch and shoot opportunities, particularly for him, in a variety of situations here. So he's another guy that can help. It's just another weapon. I just think Mike Brown, and I look at the way a coach plays players and how much he's playing players. And right now, he's not been in the rotation. Like, if we're going to keep it a buck, he's not been in the rotation here. And I think a lot of it has to do with him not being in shape. I think when he's in shape,
I agree.
he'll be in the rotation. So I also like the word that you said here. I'm not worried about it, but I do think it's worrisome at this point. Not, I wouldn't be there if we're talking middle of next month, Lee, and you text me and you're like, ugh, these Gershon catch and shoot numbers still aren't looking good. Then I'm in the worry territory because we're getting approaching Christmas and maybe he's still not looking like he's in shape. You can play yourself in the game shape. It is going to take him a little bit of time, but we'll see. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I think there is some cause for concern, but this team is absolutely going to need him because I think he was one of their better signings. I know it was only two, the signing of Jordan Clarkson and then him, but I really liked his signing this summer, and the Knicks are absolutely going to need him. There's no doubt about that.
it's the only position that the Knicks don't have a ton of depth at, if you think about it. They have
Yep.
tons of guards. The depth they have is very young, and it's not NBA ready, and Pacome Dadier and Mohamed Diawara. So if those guys are ready, we wouldn't be so worried about it. It's really just OG and Yabusele right now who are solid options at the four. So if he don't play himself into shape, it might be a trade coming before a deadline, or one of these rookies or young kids is going to have to expedite their process of maturation.
Yeah, that's asking a lot right there. That's
It,
really, really asking a lot. But I do think the question around Gerson Yabusele is a good one for sure. All right, let me give you my first question, my first burning question. It's around the Knicks on the glass. Are the Knicks' improved offensive rebounding numbers masking deeper half-court issues? This is a question I have, and the reason why, Lee, is because they're elite on the glass, right? New York, before Sunday's game, they led the NBA in offensive rebounds per game with 15.3, and I thought it was important before that game, Mitchell Robinson had only played in 3 of those contests. Now he's played in 4. They are near the top of the league in second chance points, 17.6. That ranks 7th in the league. But the question for me is that hiding stretches of stagnation or predictability in the half-court offense when the initial set breaks down? Because it's really dope to see them get all those offensive rebounds, but is that maybe showing that, hey, they're not as good offensively yet as where they could be? Not saying that this is how they always will be. Do you have any concern? Do you think the offensive rebounds are great, right? You want to give yourself second chances, but does that give you any pause for cause about where their offense is right now?
Man, this is why I love talking ball with you, Dexter. You always bring the heat. This is a very good hoops intellectual question, very nuanced. And I'm happy to say not at all. I'm not worried.
Okay.
I don't think it's masking any weaknesses because the Knicks are also 5th in passes per game at 310. They're averaging around 27 assists per game. Last year, 27 assists in the Tom Thibodeau era was a great passing night. Now it's every night. It's the average of what they do game to game. And this is not the same Tibbs iso ball or nasty over dribbling from Jalen Brunson or Mikal Bridges of yesteryear. The Knicks have really moved off of that high pick and roll that was a cornerstone of Jalen Brunson initiating the offense. It took too many dribbles and too many seconds to initiate to that. It's really phased into more DHOs, more horns action, more pistol, a little bit of that stacked pick and roll, but get the offense going and find the right mismatch. And Brown is playing multiple guards at time to make sure that the right read is getting made too. You're seeing lineups of Deuce and Clarkson or Brunson, Clarkson, and Mikal Bridges. This is part of the wheel offense, which is one of the standard sets that Mike Brown has already implemented this season, and a concept that I described in my Substack article describing what it is. And this is an offense predicated upon high percentage shots based on repetitious cuts, screens, and relocations. And I would say, Dexter, but the stats support the eye test. The lineup that caused Knicks fans ulcers last season, Brunson, Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, and Towns. This season, it went from taking 30% of their shots in the mid-range to just 14. As well, last season, they took 32% of their shots from 3. It's jumped up to 45% of their shots. Now, that lineup I just mentioned has been the second best lineup this season at a plus 23. To me, that's the antidote to the half-court, breakdowns of what we saw last year. And Hart is really being used in a really strategic way. Not only is he hitting his threes, which absolutely helps our offense capabilities, but he's being used as a purposeful screener. Tibbs did this too. I don't want to give credit away from Tibbs. Tibbs used Hart as a screener. Yep. We're seeing him now screen and cut. The cut might not always be a complete cut. It could be a ghost cut, but the purpose and the shooting with confidence, these things make the offense less predictable and make it more malleable to change based on personnel and who we're playing against. And one of the things I've appreciated the most of Mike Brown is his understanding to use Brunson and Cat, not just in simple pick and roll actions, but use them in almost every action together on the strong side. That could be a pick and roll that's been flipped between Cat and Brunson, or integrate another player like Jordan Clarkson, who's been used a lot in those stacked offensive sets to be a secondary screener who then gets a nice bounce pass as he cuts into the lane for an easy layup. Flipping those things and being more unpredictable has been a blueprint of Mike Brown's offense so far, and I've been absolutely loving it because, as you said earlier, brother, it's only getting started.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. And even though I pose this question as a burning question, right, because I just think you want to look at stuff, I think the thing that you mentioned so well to answer that question, Lee, is shot diet. I love that you brought that up. We're going to get to that a little bit later in a question I have with another player, but I love that you brought that up because if you're watching this through 9 games, you are seeing the cut down in the mid-range shot. You're seeing either high efficiency 2s, a little bit more 3s, and we get it. When you shoot more 3s, you're going to have more variance there. But to me, and I love that you broke it down, not to nerd out here, right, but the process of it, right, the actions, what's going on, having Brunson and Cat in more actions on the side. The concern we had with the lineup you mentioned that gave the Knicks fans a lot of agita last year was, okay, well, how are they going to defend? Well, one of the things I talked about this offseason with hiring Mike Brown is Mike Brown's a good defensive coach, but you brought him here to maximize this offense. And at least now through 9 games, I'm going to pump the brakes. I understand it's only 9 games. it looks like he's on the road to maximizing this offense as much as they can. So when you're maximizing this offense, you talked about the unpredictability, then you're going to get some more of these offensive rebounds they have. And look, a lot of it is a product of having Mitch, but I don't think it's solely Mitch, because you also have to look at the guards here. Lee, the guards have been crashing the glass and doing a great job on the offensive boards. They're getting some of those long rebounds, particularly because they're shooting more threes than they ever have before. So this offense looks completely different than it did under Tom Thibodeau. I'm not here to compare or shade Tom Thibodeau. That's not what we are doing here. But, yeah, I do think that the half-court offense, what I'll say is, when I talk about the concern there, I don't even think they are, as you came to the conclusion at the end of your point, they're not even where they should be as a half-court offense. And we've seen them in the last two games before recording this, 137 and 134 points they've put up. And we don't even think this is the best of what we've seen as this half-court offense. So I like the offensive rebounding numbers, and I think the half-court offense is going to get even better.
And look, you can get lost in the basketball nomenclature, talking about horns, twist, double drag screens, and stuff like that. At the end of the day, all that fails, right? Let's say we're playing the OKC Thunder and they're switching every ball string. They're locked us down. At the end of the day, you still had that bag of tricks named Jalen Brunson. Give him the rock. Let him get ISO on an island, space out 1-4 flat, and let Jalen Brunson go to work, and he'll get you 2 points. Maybe he'll get you 3 points. Maybe he'll get you 4 points, getting fouled on a three-pointer. To have that bailout option is something that only 4 or 5 teams in NBA have, and I'm very blessed to say the New York Knicks are one of them.
That's fair. No, that's fair about the Knicks offense. All right, what do you got for your next burning question for me? What you got?
All right, brother. Let's talk about the Knicks defending the three-point line, which has been something they've struggled with really since Tom Thibodeau came to town in 2020. How did the Knicks patch that up? You know, there's been long-standing vulnerability there guarding the arc that bleeds into this season. Right now, currently, through 9 games, opponents are averaging 15.9 made threes per game on 41% shooting. That's a third worst perimeter mark in the entire NBA. How can they get better at that, and who do you think is key to enhancing their vulnerability, decreasing their vulnerability on the perimeter?
Yeah, I love the second part of that question. Who is key for this? But I'm going to say, how do I think they get better is, some of it is interesting because when you look at the Knicks defensively, particularly this year under Mike Brown, you got OG's roaming a little bit more than he has in the past, and has more flexibility to do that, which has been really good for him because he's had an uptick in his deflections per game. I would also say the same for Mikal, and those guys have been getting more steals. So you knew there'd be a little bit more gambling there. I think that sometimes, while good and leads to positives, can also lead to some negatives with some of the weaker defensive players, particularly in the Knicks starting lineup, having to scramble on rotations. But who's got to be better when we talk about that? It's got to be Karl-Anthony Towns. Absolutely has to be Karl-Anthony Towns. Cat, and I want to give Cat some grace here because I still think, Lee, he's trying to figure out. You got to remember, he tried to play a lot in drop coverage last year, and for all of us who watch this team closely and analyze it, we know that looked terrible. It was not good at all whatsoever. He's not doing the same this year, but I still feel like he just doesn't look as comfortable. I think Cat can hold his own sometimes in switches. When he has smaller players switched onto him, he is capable of moving his feet well. The thing is, I think he doesn't trust himself sometimes in knowing that he is prone to making some dumb fouls. And so that sometimes causes him to be in no man land where it's like, should I come out and fully close out? Am I staying back? Do I not want to get beat off the dribble? I would love to see him trust his instincts a little bit more. You like aggression, especially when it comes to guarding the three-point line, but you don't want to be too aggressive, especially against good teams, right? Because you're scared of getting blown by, you're scared of them pulling up the three. But I really think when you have the lineups where Cat is on the floor as the primary big, and there isn't Mitch there to help him on situations, especially in that back line, I think he's really got to get better. I also think in certain situations with Cat on the floor, as I said, we're seeing OG, roam a little bit more, play a little bit more free safety, if you want to say that, right? We're seeing Mikal Bridges gamble a bit more. I think sometimes in those situations, guys have to stay home with their guy, maybe not gamble as much. I think this is going to be part of a feeling out process. The defense is something like the offense I'm really willing to see and take a look at how it looks 25, 26 games into the season. But I think it's going to have a lot more of guys trusting the communication, trusting the calls, and particularly we know Jalen Brunson is limited on size in terms of his defense, right? And some of the stuff in getting out, getting over pick and roll situations where he's a defender and getting over on screens, that's going to hurt. But Cat, I think, has got to be a little bit better. He's the key to me. If he's more trusting more of his defensive instincts and not over aggressive, then I think the Knicks will be able to guard the three a lot better. And especially if he's coming out on guys, I think he'll be better there. What do you think?
That's a sound argument. I don't disagree with any points that you made. I would go a little bit further and say this is why Mitchell Robinson's health is so important.
I
When
don't
you do
disagree with
play,
that at all. I don't disagree with
when you
that at
do
all. Mm-hmm.
when you got that double big lineup, which wasn't available at Tom Thibodeau, and that's not his fault to start last season, karl-anthony Towns was forced to be the lone big man at the five, and OG Anunoby was having issues rebounding at the four. So a lot of the time, karl-anthony Towns was forced to get in drop because whether that was what was being called by Tom Thibodeau or not, it was his fail-safe. It's what he just slipped into when he didn't know what the coverage was or how to guard a screen. If you have Mitchell Robinson as that back line, you can keep Towns at the level, and he's actually a pretty solid defender around the nail. I like him in those positions. We've seen him multiple games this year against Vucevic in Chicago, the second game, where he guarded Vuce on an island, and I thought he did a pretty good job mirroring that last time he went to the West Conference Finals of the Wolves, where he guarded Durant one series and Joker one series, especially Game 7 of that Western Conference semifinals. That was the best defense I've ever seen from him in his entire career. So I think he is capable, but it's also, again, Gerson Yabusele. We need him to get back into game shape so that his closeouts are crisper, that he can get back and be lateral on ball switches. Otherwise, it's going to be compromised any minutes that don't involve Mitchell Robinson on the floor, because you're either going to have OG having to do way too much in some type of pre-switch action with karl-anthony Towns, or you're going to have Towns paired with another net negative defender and Yabusele, who neither of them are capable of closing out on defenders getting lost in defensive coverages. We need both the health of Mitchell Robinson and Yabusele to be mitigated so that we can have a sound defensive show.
No, I agree. And I love that you referred back to that Western Conference run that Cat had, and who was next to him? Rudy Gobert, right? That, I agree. That was the best defense we saw from Cat. Now, look, I know Cat's polarizing for a lot of Knicks fans, and sometimes they're frustrated with his effort and sometimes the silly fouls. I get all that. But there is a blueprint to this that you just mentioned. We have seen him next to an elite defensive center, right? We've seen him just look a lot better in terms of a lot of the stress is not put on him. Cat cannot anchor a defense at the five. We know this. But next to an elite defensive five like a Mitchell Robinson, yeah, he can look really good. And you're right. That's why Mitch's health is so important. And lately, since he's come back from the early season load management, when Mitch has been on the floor, Knicks offense and defense has looked a whole lot better. I don't disagree. Also, I do think your point about Gerson Yabusele and how he can help, why him getting back into game shape, is also very important. We'll see.
Yep.
Knicks guarding the three, that could be a lot better. That's something we're going to keep an eye on with their defense as they move towards the season. Okay, my next burning question is going to be something I have a little bit of I won't say it's a massive concern, but I think the Knicks' depth, when you look at, you talked about the bigs, backup four, you also could say you might have some concern with their depth at center because you don't know what the health of Mitchell Robinson is going to look like. But I also have some concerns about the backup point guard role. And can Tyler Kolek seize the backup point guard role, or should the Knicks look towards other options? Because we saw Kolek early on. He had 4 appearances, played about 14 minutes a game in the first 2 games. He was pulled from the rotation in the second half of the Halloween loss against the Bulls. But look, I thought he was solid in the opener against the Cavs. Looked pretty good in that game in his 14 minutes. Then he kind of fell off. Now, anytime you talk about other options, people are going to say who, which is the fair question, who. So my colleague Stephen Bonnie, Knicks beat writer here for us here at the Post, he suggested 2 names. One was Jose Alvarado from the Pelicans, who's wasting away on that bench, and then Dante Exum, who's with the Mavs, and he looks at them as low-cost options that the Knicks could trade for here this season. I don't think either are bad options, but the question being for you, Lee, is can Tyler Kolek seize the backup point guard role? Should he get another chance? Should Mike Brown be giving him more minutes to get more looks? We know he's been playing a little bit in the G League. Or is time up for Kolek? What do you say?
Ooh, another fire question. Great job tonight,
Hey
Dexter.
man, I'm
You
just trying
brought
to bring
the
the
heat.
heat. Burning questions, man. You got to bring the heat. That's all I'm saying.
Job well done. I don't think any of the three names you mentioned, including Tyler Kolek, are needed. As my sister on the Knick of Time show, Ebony says, free is me. Now, why is that? Let me back up my argument. Mikal Bridges has shown an innate ability. Now that Mike Brown is giving him more on-ball reps to run the offense with that bench unit. Tonight, he had 5 dimes. He and Cat, believe it or not, have the best pick and roll duo on the team and the most points per possession in pick and roll. And he's shown himself to be capable of very high reads in Mike Brown's motion offense. Maybe that has something to do with some of the continuity he has with Hart and Jalen Brunson and even Shamit. Who knows? But the dude is balling right now. He's proven he can start or finish a play within a flow of the offense or within designed actions. He's right now, he's second on the team in assists with 5.3 a game, which is a career high for him if this continues behind Brunson 6 a game. Last season, he only averaged 3.7. So having Bridges on ball also allows Deuce and Clarkson to hunt their mismatches and shots within the wheel of the offense, while Bridges maintains setting up various sets. Now, I think of all the players this season, Bridges has adapted the quickest to Brown's offensive identity, and he's been involved in a ton of ball screens, a ton of weak side actions when he's not on ball. And he's been the primary recipient of handoffs and been excellent at all different kinds of cuts, getting to the rim. And I think the options you named, Bridges makes the most sense. Let Bridges run that second unit. Let him run in tandem with the other two guards that present. Deuce is a great defender. Clarkson's a disruptive defender. I love that 3 guard lineup. You can switch all three of those on ball screens, and they can take turns initiating or finishing based on what the defense is giving them. And the names that you named,
Mm-hmm.
Alvarado is not the best answer. He's shoot first. He's undersized at 6 foot, and he's an inconsistent 35% 3 point mark for his career. Adding another guard that needs minutes, usage in a role, cuts down Deuce's minutes in role, Clarkson's minutes in role. To me, that's not the right answer. And Dante Etzum, who gives you size and playoff experience, has yet to play this season with the Mavs. Why? Because he's injury prone. He played 20 games last season, only 55 a year before, and
Yeah.
now he's nursing an injured knee. So to me, the answer is keep the team intact. Don't trade away Kolek or Pacome for that kind of player. Hold your cards and wait for a bigger piece down the line and continue to use Mikal Bridges alongside Deuce and Clarkson. That's how OKC won the chip last season. They didn't have a true table setter off the bench. They had Cason Wallace, who's a catch and shoot 3 point shooter and a point of attack defender. Sounds like Deuce and Bride to me. I think we can win the same way.
No, that's a good point with OKC. Let me push back slash play devil's advocate here. I'm not saying this is not how I feel,
Hey,
but let me push back a little bit. Some people are going to say, okay, Lee, you believe in Mikal Bridges, and I think the numbers you brought up points that Mikal has been a good secondary facilitator. He's been dishing out. I also agree with you. He's been the most adaptable to Mike Brown's system, which I am not surprised about. I thought he would be the most adaptable to Mike Brown's system. What happens if Mikal Bridges goes down? Which is the crazy thought because Mikal Bridges never goes down. He is the NBA's Iron Man. What happens? And I'm going to put another thing. What happens if he goes down or Brunson goes down? Then how do you feel about that in terms of them not having a traditional backup point guard there that's ready? And do you think Tyler Kolek is ready to be thrust into that situation?
he's going to have to. To me, that's
Some,
not worth
sometimes that's
sacrificing.
like that's how it is though, right? Like you just
It
gotta
is.
you gotta step up. Okay.
And sometimes that's how a star is born. I'm not going to go that far to say that that's what's awaiting Tyler Kolek's future,
Right.
but I will say that neither Alvarado or especially Exum are worth trading valuable assets that could be used down the line in larger negotiation and deals. To me, let Tyler Kolek be the guard in waiting. God forbid, knock on wood, that either
Mm-hmm.
Brunson or Bridges get hurt this season that needs or calls for a 7, 8, 9, 10 game stretch where Tyler Kolek has to play significant minutes. But I will say, in a truncated segment, I also believe in a combo of Deuce and Clarkson to be able to hold down the fort should one of those guys not be available to be the primary ball handler within that stretch, especially Deuce, who I've been very impressed with his ability to make very smart reads in both pick and roll as a ball handler and also knowing when to come off that handoff and either take that mid-range shot, drive to the basket, or give one more pass to find the higher percentage shot in the corner. To me, Deuce McBride has also earned an opportunity to be that lead guard should Jalen Brunson go down. Again, knock on wood. prayers up, right? That doesn't happen. But if we do, I think we have the ammo and the clip to make it through any short or medium stretch of time that any of those two players are gone. Don't make the trade. Freeze me.
Yeah, I don't think you need to make. I like the points you made. Listen, Jose Alvarado, New York native, would be very popular coming back. He's a pest. He is an undersized guard. That is a little bit of my concern. Dante Exum, you get a little bit more side for defense. Do you want to trade a Pacome Dadier or Tyler Kolek for him? I don't think you. I'm kind of with you. I don't think you need to give up on that easy. Here's what I will say, though, about Tyler Kolek. I think that he needs to make sure that he can take advantage of all his time in the G League. And I think it'll be nice if Mike Brown can find some minutes for him when the Knicks are playing the bottom of the NBA. So, yes, against Brooklyn, when they play again in a couple weeks. When you play Utah, is that a game you can play Tyler Kolek 10 minutes, 12 minutes, where he can get some more NBA reps? I think at some point, Knicks are going to have to find out what they have in him right now this season. So, can he take the role? Maybe, but you might be bringing up the bigger question: is do they need to have a traditional backup point guard? That's what you raised here, and based on what you're seeing with the roster and how it's playing out right now in the 9-man rotation that we're seeing from Mike Brown, they might not need one. It's a good point, and a great point about OKC. They did not have a traditional backup point guard last year. They won the title. Why not?
Yeah,
you said they're going to the finals anyway, so why not?
They are. And I'll also say this: they got playmaking from other positions. We know very well what Isaiah Hartenstein can do, especially with dribble handoff on the perimeter, getting guards downhill. Chet can have the offense run through him. J-Dub can have the offense run through him. Caruso can have the offense run through him. So they have options, but we do too. We saw it tonight. OG making great reads. Karl-Anthony Towns making great reads. I think we have, and Josh Hart as well. We have that offensive flexibility. I think we can be malleable, and based on personnel, based on matchup, we can have the right rotation out there that keeps the offense humming. I'm not concerned.
No, that's fair. That's fair. All right, come on. I know you have one more burning question for me. I know you're going to bring the heat. What you got?
All right. Well, I brought him up. Let's talk about him a little bit more. Mikal Bridges. Okay. How sustainable is this? I think right now he is carving out an all-star level play, maybe even all NBA play. Now, the points per game are not second on the team. He's about fourth, but he does have the second best offensive rating in the entire NBA. By this morning, he was at 142, and he's a team's best pick and roll ball handler, as I mentioned before, averaging 1.1 points per attempt with Karl-Anthony Towns. Is this sustainable? Can he keep this up for the entire season? And can he be, when we need him in a playoff series, our second option? Yay, nay? I would love to hear your argument for either.
I'm going to say kind of. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer. Okay, so
come on, Dexter.
I'm gonna say yes, but it won't look as good as it is right now. Right? This is what I'll say. So right now he's shooting amazing from downtown, right around 46%. I don't think he's going to shoot 46%. We just did something recently about the odds of him shooting even over 42.5%, which would be a career high from him. I still think he can be somewhere between 40 to 41% three-point shooter for the year, which would be still amazing for him. He would be his highest in 4 seasons, I believe. So he has not shot that well since much earlier in his career. And I think the way he's shooting the ball, how comfortable he is with the movement off the ball that we're seeing right now, how he's embraced running to the corners has been fantastic, how he's embraced being a secondary playmaker. You know what you haven't heard in a long time here, Lee?
What's
5 first-round picks. I haven't heard anybody complain about the 5 first-round picks from Mikal Bridges. You haven't heard that in quite some time because he's playing that good. Mikal Bridges is a damn good two-way player. We all knew this. I don't know what the reason he didn't play that great during the regular season last year. Maybe he just wasn't that comfortable. Maybe it takes people some time to adjust to their new surroundings. I have no idea. But I thought, and I don't know how you felt, I thought he was a perfect fit in Mike Brown and what he was trying to do in this offense. I think we're seeing that. When we say sustainable, again, do I think his offensive rating will be the second in the league? Maybe that drops a little bit. I think that might. But when I think he's sustainable, could he still be a top 10 offensive rating player in the league? Yeah. Here's the reason, because I think he's picking his spots. He's become highly efficient, something you're seeing with him and OG Anunoby. Fewer mid-range shots, more threes, more shots at the rim. And that's the biggest thing for me when Mikal Bridges is here. The biggest thing for me is his free throw rate is up. He is getting to the line. We did not see that last year. Last year, this man would drive into the paint, and then he was fading away. No. That's not the case this year. Because that's how you get a high offensive rating, right? People think it's just about the shots you make, whether it's in the mid-range, at the rim, or shooting the three. And he's shooting a great percentage from three, especially on the high volume. We love all that. That's good. But the variance to that will come down a little bit to some degree. The key to getting easy points is getting to the line and finishing your breakfast. And right now, he's doing that, and I love it. And I think that bodes well. And I don't see that changing for him because now he's getting back to the player that we saw at Phoenix. I know there's always a lot of talk about, oh, will he ever be Brooklyn Mikal Bridges? He doesn't need to be. What he needs to be is something between what we saw in Phoenix and in Brooklyn, and I think right now we're seeing that. It's a guy who looks happy in the offense, who's thriving in the offense. So if we're talking about sustainability, Lee, and you're asking me, do I still think he can be an all-NBA level player? I think he can be an all-defensive level player, all-NBA defense level player. I definitely think so. I think both him and OG have a chance at that this year, and maybe even Mitch, depending on how many games he plays. But I think he can absolutely do that, and I think he can be efficient third or fourth option, which is what you need. And I don't think he cares about whether he's the third or the fourth option. Some days it could be OG, some days it could be him. I think that's the beauty of this offense right now. It could be either guy. It could be Jordan Clarkson off the bench. We have no idea. I think Mikal Bridges, I always thought coming into this year, so my answer will be yes. I always thought coming into this year, Mikal Bridges was going to have a fantastic season. I felt very good about him in this offense. I really did. So if anybody's watching the New York God game, you know I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere. I've been saying this through the offseason. I felt good about him in this offense. To be honest, it's looked even better than I thought. And the other thing I'm going to add, the last thing I'm going to say, and I want to hear you respond to this too, is what you mentioned in the last question when I asked you about Tyler Kolek. It's the playmaking. And it's the confidence in the playmaking. When the ball is in his hands in pick and roll situation, he looks confident. He's also off of cuts, off of dribble handoff actions. He's making immediately the right read. If he gets in the paint, he's looking to spray it out to other guys. He's embraced being a playmaker. That's huge in terms of offensive efficiency. His usage is up a little bit this year. His shot diet has changed as well, too. I think it's all good. And he's just comfortable. He looks like hey, look, no matter what you do for work, if you're enjoying it, it looks a whole lot better. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't enjoying it under Tibbs. I'm just saying it looks like he enjoys it a little bit more, just a little bit more. Yeah. So I'm going with yes. I think this is sustainable.
You talked yourself into yes. It wasn't even my argument.
I did.
You changed your mind. It was your own. I love it.
Again, I don't think he's going to shoot 46% from three. I don't think that's happening. But I do think he's going to have a highly efficient offensive season. I do think so.
Isn't it crazy? You know who is above him in that rating is Nikola Jokic.
Yep.
And below him is Giannis. So that's unbelievable company to be sharing this early. Why I don't think it's going to dissipate sharply. Mm-hmm. Does he stay top three? Probably not. Top eight? I do think he'll stay top eight. The reason is how much gravity the other four players he shares a court with, even including Mitchell Robinson, who you cannot hedge on. You have to guard him on the offensive board because of how dominant he is there. Then karl-Anthony Towns is a hub. OG Anunoby is a playmaker. Jalen Brunson, like being surrounded, Jordan Clarkson, I'm glad you brought him up too.
Yep.
Being surrounded with those guys makes it very difficult to throw two on the ball or to blitz him in pick and roll. You really have to pick your poison. And because of his ability to playmate for others, that's going to keep that offensive rating because it doesn't just matter about points. It's also about efficiency. And it's also about getting your teammates involved too. And that has been a huge jump for him. I think he will end the season either All-NBA or All-Star. And I love the idea that playoff series to playoff series, we could have a different second option based again on matchups, not being predictable, not having these very rigid formulaic roles where people get very frustrated because it limits their ability to impact others and winning. This is more let's read the game and actually, for the first time in a couple of seasons, listen to what it tells you. And Mikal Bridges' ears have been wide open and the message is received. He's giving the team whatever they need on any given night. And that continuity with Brunson is unbelievable. Love the reads he's making. Love the defensive acuity that he's had and how disruptive he's been. Finally being taken off that ball hawking role and not having to be the POA defender night after
Yeah, that's
night.
huge.
He's also in that free safety role too, where he can
Yep.
kind of freelance on the defense and decide whether to snake through a passing lane or really double and use the out of bounds baseline as a third or second man and force turnovers. All that has been brilliant. I don't see that trending any way but up. Let's go, baby.
No, I love the point you made too about him not having to be the point of attack defender as much as he was last year. I think some people, some fans may not have realized how taxing that was, and then to also be efficient on the offensive end. So I'm in agreement with you too. I also love the point you made about the company he's in right now, because the difference between him and being in the top three, right, with a Giannis and a Jokic, is there's just so much more responsibility off those guys. And as you mentioned, he's getting to feed off all the other dudes here in the starting lineup, and he's been cooking and should continue to cook. Now, is he going to cook with the same heat? I don't know that, if it's going to be that good. But yeah, I think he's going to cook, and I think it's sustainable, and we'll see. Look, right now, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges could talk themselves. You could say they've been the Knicks' second best player. I mean, here's the thing. Mikal Bridges has absolutely, through 9 games, been the Knicks' most consistent player. I don't even think that's arguable right now through 9 games. He's absolutely been their most consistent player. So could he continue to do that over a long stretch? We'll see. But I like to put some odds on it, and I think that he and OG got an outside shot to make the All-Star team this year. I think a lot of it depends on how Cat plays. The rest of the way, Cat's had a bit of a slower start, better in his last 3 to 4 games. We will see how that happens. And listen, if the Knicks are going to get 3 All-Stars, I'm sure that's a conversation weeks down the road. They're going to have to get off to a really strong start in the East. I mean, look, 6-3 right now. Not too bad. All right, that was good. You see, you brought the heat too, my friend. That was some good questions.
I had to coming over here with you.
Hey, burning questions. You got to bring the fire. Okay, you had a player in Mikal Bridges. My last burning question is around another player, and it's going to be OG Anunoby. So we're going to get the other side of Wingstop here. So is OG Anunoby's new, more selective offensive approach the blueprint, I would say, for this team's balance? And this kind of goes into some stuff that you and I were talking about with shot diet with different players. Because OG Anunoby, he's taken fewer mid-range shots, right? 10% as opposed to 17% last season. This according to Cleaning the Glass. But converting at a higher rate. Much higher volume from three-point land this season. 50% of his shots, 50%, Lee, are coming from three, and he's knocking down 41.4% of those shots. That's fantastic. You're getting high volume and really efficient shooting. There you go. And 40% of his shots are coming at the rim. We all know how good of a finisher OG is, how good of a dunker is. He's thriving off of the quick decisions and spacing. Effective field goal percentage, a stat that I love, right, to look at when you talk about shooting. It's the highest of his career right now, 59.5%. That is really good. So what we're seeing from OG, does this version of him, where he's being good with the decisions and the spacing and his shot diet is different, does that unlock the best version of the Knicks offense, or are they limiting how much more that he can do with the ball? Because we saw OG do a little bit of things where he cooked with the ball in his hands, sometimes too many turnovers, but we have seen that. So do you think the way he's playing now unlocks the best version of the Knicks offense?
You see that demon mask behind me? That's an OG Anunoby mask, naturally. That's OG Anunoby has been a demon on both sides of the ball this season. So I had to go to NBA.com and pick me up one of his face masks. Let me tell you about OG Anunoby, man. You know, Mike Brown, he's been so smart in how he's schemed and mitigated for the starting 5. And I think as the season goes on, you'll see even more of that emphasis on some of the bench pieces, specifically Deuce. But for that starting 5, you can tell this man went into the lab, he grinded a ton of tape, and he figured out, how do I make the best version, the most efficient version of every one of these players so they can work on both an individual level and a group level. And on Minute to Time podcast, for like almost 3 post games in a row, I've analyzed how Mike Brown has purposefully used Anunoby. When does he attack on ball? And I've broken down in 2 ways. First, When he's above the nail, he's automatically locked in as a high volume catch and shoot sniper, which you just gave all the stats that back up that eye test. Below the nail, when he catches it, whether the ball is swinging or maybe he's in the pick and roll action, when he catches it below the nail, Brown is trusting him to even decide when are you going to pull up and hit that Kawhi Leonard mid range shot, or when are you going to put the ball on the floor and attack the basket as the best dunker on this New York Knicks roster. This is freedom. We're seeing freedom, but within a structured shell. And I think OG Anunoby has been the best off-ball scorer on our team and one of the most dependable dunkers in the dunking spot. Those 7 3-point attempts is great volume that he's hitting right now. It's even better when it's at 40% shooting, even a higher mark, around 44% on the corners. Brown has him crashing the glass, especially diving from the corners in a group stream. And that was really, that rebounding weakness was really one of the spots that Knicks fans were the most concerned about. Last year, we've conceded completely rectified. It's been a group effort. And now OG Anunoby's rebounding numbers are some of the best of his career. And when something's not working, why change it, in my opinion? Here's some on and off stats for OG Anunoby to prove how incredibly important and potent he is. Defensive rating, plus 13.9. Nice. Offensive rating, plus 10.5. Net rating, you ready for this? 24.1. That's my demon right there. That's my guy's face on my wall.
The couple of things you brought up, one, it's funny, and it's part of offense and defense, finishing possessions, getting extra possessions for your team, the rebounding from him. That's been the uptick. And you're right about him crashing, particularly from the corners. Mikal Bridges has been doing a fantastic job of that too. But OG averaging over 6 boards a game. I think people wanted to see more boards from him. You didn't see a lot of that from him last year playing the 4. He is playing more of the 3 this year in terms of the starting lineup when they have the double big. So you're liking that. Getting 6 rebounds out of your 3, that's really good. And OG, I think, is an underrated rebounder. We've seen he had 14 rebounds in the first game of the season against the Cavs. So you can see him doing a lot better. He seems to be bought in. I think, personally, the way he's playing right now, it's perfect. I agree with you. He's got the opportunities to, if he wants to do something with the ball on the floor, like you said, when he gets the ball above the nail, it's great. But he's not doing too much. We've seen how it looks when he can do too much with the ball, right? Where it's like, oh no, he might turn the ball over here. The handle's a little shaky, right? But I think right now he's seeing the game and reading well. Almost similar to what we just talked about with Mikal. He's seeing the game and reading well and understanding his role and how he can be highly efficient and is really bought in. And if he's going to shoot 7 threes a game, he's going to hit over 41% from it. Well, and as you mentioned, we all know how good of a corner 3-point shooter he is, and he's hitting 44% from the easiest 3 that you can hit from the corner. I mean, what are you going to do? And he's strong, and he's giving you problems on the other end as a defender. Yeah, I think it's not. I asked this question because I was just really curious as to what you thought about it. I actually don't think they're limiting how much more he can do with the ball. I think we've seen it. I think they're allowing him to pick his spots and not having him hurt the team by trying to do too much with the ball. But you said, you just said this. You said he's the team's best off-ball scorer. I'd agree with that. I'd absolutely agree with that. The numbers back that up, and it also backs with the eye test. If you've been watching him this season, he has. And he's shown that willingness to let it fly in terms of the three-pointer. His confidence only seems to be going up. Here's the thing, Lee. We can talk about all this stuff with the Knicks offense. The team can get better offensively as time goes on. They're still learning. They're still adjusting. This is why when they were 2-3, people needed to calm down. They were doing too much. Right? It was doing too much.
Over Twitter spaces.
Yeah. And look, we all know how that goes, but the offense seems to be trending the right way. And sure, we have 6 burning questions here today. 6 weeks from now, we might have some more burning questions. We might. There's always questions. There's always things we could ask. But for right now, life's not bad. Knicks have won 6 out of 9 games to start the season. It's not bad at all. Appreciate you, Lee. These questions were good. You came with the fire, man.
So did you, brother. And I'll leave us with a poet who I thought was able to memorialize joy better than anyone else. And right now, the Knicks are giving all of us fans joy. And that is Emily. That is Emily Dickinson, one of our greatest poets in the history of a game. And she has a very short poem here. It's one that I learned in college and has stuck with me for the rest of my life. Heaven is what I cannot reach. The apple on the tree, provided to hopeless Hain, that heaven is to me, the color on the cruising cloud, the interdicted ground behind the hill, the house behind. There, paradise is found. Emily Dickinson.
Well, I'll say this, Lee. Knicks fans been looking for heaven for quite some time. They've been looking since 1973. They've been hoping to get to the mountaintop, and they're hoping this year, and maybe this year you were a believer. You said they're going to the finals. Wait, did you say they're winning it all? Did you predict that?
Yes, I did.
That.
Yes, I did.
So when I have you back later in the season, I got to check on you. I got to make sure you're doing good. I got to make sure you stick with the prediction. You don't back off at all. We got to make
you know me. You know me,
I know.
Dexter.
Yeah, that's true. I do. I know. You're not backing off at all. But this was fun, man. We had some good questions to discuss about the Knicks. Hopefully the people enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments what you think about Lee's burning questions, my burning questions, and our answers and our discussion to it. It was really good. Check out Lee Escobado, Nick of Time Show. They do a great job. Jay Ellis and the crew, check them out there. Their post games are fun. I pop on there sometimes to have a great discussion with the KOT crew.
Do.
Lee, man, I appreciate you as always. Also appreciate that as a fan of poetry. I appreciate the Emmett Lee Dickinson poem there. That was a really good one. And hopefully at the end of this year, Knicks fans enjoy themselves a little slice of heaven. That's what we're hoping for.
Amen. Great to be here. I appreciate you again. Happy birthday, JLS. I love you, brother.
There you go. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate you, man. All right, we're going to see what the Knicks can do this week. Can they keep the good vibes going at home? 3 more games left on this homestand. They welcome Memphis to town on Tuesday, followed by the Magic on Wednesday, and then they have the Heat coming to town next weekend. So it's going to be very interesting to see if the Knicks can go 7-0 on this homestand before they head out on the road. Got a lot more good content coming your way this week on New York Got Game. I will be at both of those home games this week against Memphis and Orlando. We also will have another live show coming up later in the week where we'll preview that matchup with the Miami Heat. Brian Fonseca will join me for that. That should be an absolutely fun one. So we'll see if the Knicks can keep the good vibes going. Right now, it's looking good. This is why it's a long season. Sometimes you don't have to panic that much. Also, doesn't mean things can't turn the other way. But this is why we love to watch basketball. This is why we watch the games. We're going to get out of here. Special thanks to the people that make this show look as amazing as it does and the opportunity to keep going and bring you the best Knicks show in New York every week. Special thanks to my producer, Erica Block, technical director, Heather Bonsignore, production assistants, Jessica Thiessen and Tommy Cohen. Also, got to give a shout out to our editor, Eduardo Guerrera. Special thanks again to everybody working here on New York Got Game. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next time on another edition of New York Got Game.
And thanks for watching New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.